So, and I've had students that I've worked with, again, a very small percentage that come in with this symptom cluster, and some of them early on have been identified on the autistic spectrum, where there's very severe difficulty in this area. If we address this area, they don't have those features. So they truly weren't autistic, they just had such difficulty processing meaning and attaching meaning to their world. So what did I do to work this area? I thought, well, I can't tell time, I can't process relationships, and it wasn't that I wanted to get better at telling time, but I wanted to try to force that part of my brain to process relationships. So I created an exercise using clocks with increasing levels of complexity, so 2 hands, 3 hands, 4 hands. We currently have a 10-handed level of a clock, which only 2 people have walked through the door of my school in Toronto and looked at it and said, well, this is really interesting, and been able to figure it out. And one was a physicist from Harvard, and one was an astronomer from Maryland who had been partially involved in discovering radio-emitting galaxies. So I knew I was onto something if they could see, you know, the relationships and the connections. But the idea was not to tell time, but to find a window in, and I think there are multiple windows into stimulating brain function. These are just the ones that I've found. So I wanted to force that part of my brain to process relationships. And for me, you know, I went through multiple levels of complexity, and it was at the level of what I call the 4-handed clocks, where I was having to see and process 4 relationships simultaneously, that I started to see significant change in my cognitive functioning. What I started to be able to do was actually process information in what I call real time. I used to say that I lived in lag time. I was hours behind everybody else in processing meaning, and sometimes I was never able to. The best would be I'd memorize the conversation, I'd walk away, the next 2 hours I'd play it over and over again, trying to figure out what had that person really said, what had they meant, what had they intended in the conversation. And if I was able to figure it out, I couldn't be part of that conversation because it was several hours later. Now I was able to be part of human discourse. I could listen to somebody's conversation. I could actually understand it and interject a comment. I could understand their response. I could actually be in relationship with other human beings, which hadn't existed very well for me before that.